This video is about why shorter fighters actually have an unfair advantage, and most people completely overlook it. I'm a medical student and mostly MMA lover. I've analyzed hundreds of fight footage and I've trained with fighters of all sizes. The science is pretty clear. Shorter fighters have specific and measurable advantages that translate directly to performance. And today I'm going to break down exactly why some of the most dominant fighters in history were or are short kings. First, let's address the elephant in the room. Everyone assumes reach equals advantage at any given time. Longer arms, longer legs, more range. That's the narrative. And yeah, reach has benefits, no doubts. But there's what most people miss. Every physical trait comes with trade-offs. Those long levers, they create vulnerabilities that shorter fighters exploit every single day. The problem is that shorter fighters buy into this bullshit narrative that they are at disadvantage. They are not. They just need to understand their biological advantages and actually use them. Let's start with the most obvious one. Lower center of gravity and its basic physics. Your center of gravity sits roughly at your pelvis. Shorter fighters have this center closer to the ground, and what does it mean? Mechanically better balance and stability. When you get hit, your body rotates around your center of gravity. A taller fighter has a longer pendulum. Hit them in the head and that force has more leverage to rotate their entire body. On the other hand, shorter fighters, the same force has less mechanical advantage. They are harder to knock off balance, harder to knock down, harder to knock out. Prime example is Mike Tyson, the smallest heavyweight champion but the hardest to knock down. Or think about wrestling and grappling. Lower center of gravity means superior takedown defense. It means more explosive takedowns when you shoot. Physics doesn't care about narratives, it cares about leverage and force distribution. Now, a few words about interesting medical science. Shorter fighters typically have thicker, more compound bone structure relative to their height. Their necks are often proportionally thicker and stronger, and this is a huge brain protection. When you take a punch, your brain doesn't get damaged by the punch itself, it gets damaged by rapid acceleration and deceleration inside your skull. A strong, thick neck acts as a shock absorber. It resists rotational acceleration. Studies show that neck strength is one of the most significant factors in concussion prevention. Shorter fighters often have neck circumferences that rival or exceed taller fighters despite weighting the same or less. That's more muscle, more stability, and more protection. Every millimeter of neck thickness is reducing the G-forces transmitted to your brain. And it's not just the neck. Compact skeletal structure means shorter movement arms in your joints. This reduces injury risk in shoulders, elbows and knees. Long levers are more prone to hyperextension and ligament damage. Shorter, stockier builds are structurally more durable. Now, let's talk about the power. People think longer reach equals more power, but that's wrong. Power is about force generation and transfer efficiency. Shorter fighters have mechanical advantages here. When you throw a punch, you are creating a kinetic chain from your feet to your hips, core, shoulder, and finally arm. Shorter levers can rotate faster. Basic physics, angular velocity. A shorter arm can achieve higher speed through the same arc. Speed multiplied by mass equals momentum. More speed, similar mass, more impact force. But here is what really matters. Stance width and hip rotation. Shorter fighters can maintain a wider, more stable base while still generating full hip rotation. Taller fighters often have to compromise stance width for mobility. That compromise costs them power. Now let's talk about defensive geometry. Defensive advantages are massive but still underrated. Shorter fighters present a smaller target area. This isn't just about being harder to see, it's about angles and geometry. When a taller fighter throws at a shorter opponent, they are punching down at an angle. This reduces their leverage and power generation. Their punches travel a longer total distance, given more reaction time, and here's the key, their chin is exposed on a longer vertical plane. Shorter fighters can tuck their chin, keep their hands high, and make themselves incredibly difficult to hit cleanly. The compact defensive shell of shorter fighter is geometrically superior. less surface area, better coverage with the same guard position. In fighting range, which is where most fights are actually won, shorter fighters dominate. They are fighting their optimal distance, while taller fighters are compromised. Their uppercuts have better angles, their body shots are more natural, and their hooks have tighter, more powerful arcs. So, how do you maximize these advantages as a shorter fighter? First, develop your neck strength religiously. Look at my previous video or book a call for online coaching. Your neck is your brain's first line of defense. Aim for neck circumference that's impressive relative to your frame. This isn't about aesthetics and looking badass, this is about structural protection. Second, master in fighting. This is your domain. Drill entries that close distance safely, head movement, level changes, lateral steps. Once you're inside, you are in your world. Work uppercuts, hooks, body shots. Make taller fighters fight at your range. Third, pressure and pace. Use your superior cardio efficiency. Shorter fighters typically have better aerobic capacity. Constant pressure forces taller fighters to fight your fight. Fourth, develop takedown skills even if you're primarily a striker. That lower center of gravity is a weapon. Even the threat of takedowns makes taller strikers hesitant. Now I will show you evidence across the whole history of martial arts.
Numbers don't lie. The taller man and the bigger man is almost always going to beat the smaller man and the shorter man. That's usually the case, unless the smaller, shorter man's name is Mike.
Mike Tyson, 5'10", fighting heavyweight, dominated taller opponents through speed, power, and that compact, explosive style. Next, Daniel Cormier, 5'11", or some say 5'9", in a division of giants. Double champ, Demetrius Johnson, relatively short for flyweight, but arguably the most skilled fighter ever. Then Henry Cejudo, Fedor Emelianenko, Volkanovski, and currently Ilia Topuria, all shorter than their division's averages. These are fighters who understood and maximized their biomechanical advantages. I also have some additional strategies. Beyond the physical advantages, there is a massive psychological edge. Opponents often underestimate shorter fighters. They expect an easy night. Use that, let them underestimate you, then overwhelm them with volume, pace and skill. The only real disadvantage short fighters have is covering distance to establish range. Master the transition and you eliminate the one weakness. Work on your head movement more than taller fighters need to. You can afford to slip and duck more aggressively because you are already closer to crouching height. Make them miss, make them pay.
I use it to my advantage because I move my head, I'm very quick, and I'm low to the ground, and it's very difficult to hit me. I get a lot of leverage from my punches, and it doesn't matter if I punch up, or straight, or down, or around. I have good leverage. Jabbing is all to do with timing. If you throw your jab at the right time, you'll be 5'6", and I'll jab a guy 6'4". When I was young, I used to always say, God, I'm just a midget. I'm never going to grow. I'm never going to be anything because I'm too short to do any kind of sports, anything. But then, I started believing in myself and things worked out right.